Let's have a look at these coliform count data. First of all, when I look at the numbers, they start from a low of 1 up to a high of over 23,000. Two of my data points are fairly large, and some of my numbers are really small, and this kind of indicates data that are most likely not going to have a symmetric distribution. And to have a preliminary look at those data, if I graph these with, say, a histogram, let's try that, coliform counts, and I can see that this histogram is very right skewed. The tail spills out very long to the right, and here's two of those high data points. And if I was to graph these data as well, say with a box plot, I would see a similar trend. My box is very skewed. The top half is a lot longer than the bottom half, and I've got two very high outliers, and that's the 17,000 and that over 23,000. Okay, so when we're dealing with data like this, it's very common for us to try and transform them in some way. And when it comes to microbiological data like these data tend to have a what we call a logarithmic or a log normal distribution. Now, what I'm going to try and do here, what I will do, is log the coliform count data. To do that, we're going to go to the Calc tab, choose the calculator, and the cursor is blinking in this window right here. Minitab wants to know where do I want to store the result, and I can just give it an empty column. So once it does whatever I ask it to do, it's going to store the result in column C3. Now, down in the expression window, if you knew what you had to do, you could simply type it, but most of us don't have a clue what we're supposed to do with this. So there are a list of functions right here, and if I scroll down to the L's, let's have a look. We have got log base 10, and that's what I'm going to use for these data. I could use natural log, or I can use log base 10, won't make any difference. Maybe I'll try it both ways. Alright, so let's do log base 10. Now I can double click or just say select. And so it's going to take the log base 10, and the default in Minitab here is that it wants you to input an individual number. Now that's kind of useless because I want it to be able to take the logs of all the numbers in column C2, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm going to erase the word number. Make sure your brackets are still there though, and you can either type in C2 like this, or I could come over here on the left hand side and double click the coliform count. So it's going to take the log base 10 of the coliform counts, and it's going to store that in column C3. Click OK. Now I should put a header on this. This is log, L-O-G, of my coliform counts. Coliform. So I'll look at that in a minute in terms of the graph, and I'll also try using the natural log, and we'll see that it makes no difference to the distribution of these data once I look at the graphs. So if I come back in here to my last dialog box, this time, by the way, I've specified column C4 to be the natural log, so I could select that, or I could just type in the C4 up here. And this time, where it says the expression, you could scroll down here and find something called the natural log. Let's have a look. It's down here somewhere. Natural log, log base E. And if you knew that the expression was just ln, you could type in ln. Okay, I'm getting rid of the word number, and I want it to take the natural log of the coliform counts and stick it in this column that I've called natural log of coliform. Click OK. Now notice that my numbers are not the same in the columns. That's because this one's log base 10 and this one's log base E. Now let's get a few graphs and see what this looks like. So if I get a histogram of the log data, and I'll get one of the natural log as well. Click OK. Here's the natural log. That's looking a lot more symmetric. And the log base 10 is looking more symmetric, not as symmetric as the natural log, but that's okay. I got a high point right here. It spills out to the left, spills out to the right. So my histograms are looking a lot more symmetric, and if I went in and had a look at my box plots, and let's say we've got multiple Y's, then say OK. And if I click on both of those, log and natural log, I have the distributions right here, and I can see that log base 10 is very symmetric and natural log is also very symmetric. So this is a common way of transforming data to make them take on a normal symmetric looking distribution.